hour-long virtual hackathon where you can code, design, and create meaningful solutions to real-life problems. It is an open-track event welcoming participants with all skill sets, from beginners to professionals. However, we do have themes to add in flavors to your creativity. Due to the pandemic this year, the hackathon is being conducted virtually, so you can participate from the comfort of your homes and build something fun and incredible with us.
And to ensure that you don't get bored in this 36-hour long coding period, we have some fun events in store. We will be organizing some events like meme slam, typing race, trivia quiz, and the winners will get exciting goodies and swag. We also have some leisure and fun games. So don't let your creativity die and get on board with us in this wonderful journey. And don't forget to join our Discord channel if you haven't yet.
To kickstart with day one, we have a series of enlightening talks aligned in for you. And what could be more exciting and amazing to start this journey than an informative insight on some new tech? So here we have Mr. Pavan Dhanwani. Mr. Pavan is a full stack engineer at TestShore, Bangalore, and former technical head at SRM by AG. He's going to give some valuable insight on Tezos. We warmly welcome you, sir. The stage is all yours.
Thanks for the introduction, Chandra. So yeah, Tezos is a very hot technology nowadays. Many developers are using Tezos to build apps. And in this 30 minutes which I have been given, I will be sharing some basic details about what is Tezos and how you can start development on Tezos and interact with Tezos using some tools. So let's get started. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. So Tezos is a self-amending cryptographic ledger. So what is meant by self-amending? So every once in a while there's a proposal to upgrade Tezos protocol, and it goes through a voting process. And if it's voted in a favor, then it automatically updates itself with a new set of rules and regulations. So that's why we call it a self-amending cryptographic ledger. So before we dive into what is Tezos, first we should understand what is blockchain. So why it is called decentralized is that everyone on the internet can access it, and why it is called a linked list because every block on a blockchain stores the hash of its previous address. Sorry. So in this way, every block is linked to one another, and it forms a linked list. So now we know what is blockchain, so we should dive in what is Tezos. So Tezos is a cryptocurrency also known as XYZ, which enables borderless transaction capabilities. So why we call it as borderless? So anyone on the internet with some XYZ and have a TZON address can send money to anyone or interact with blockchain. And how you can buy some XYZ is that you can buy Tezos from some exchanges like WazirX in India, and of course in some other countries there will be some other exchanges available from where people can buy XYZ and interact with the blockchain. So liquid proof of stake. So this is what makes Tezos very interesting. So you can directly or indirectly participate in the voting process. Generally, what happens when a proposal comes into the picture? So the bakers get a right to vote on it. So when you delegate your XYZ to some baker, so you are delegating your own rights to a baker so that he can participate in the voting process. So you can also judge which baker you can send your XYZ for delegation, so that you also decide indirectly which proposal should be accepted or not. So the next big thing in about blockchain technology is a smart contract. So smart contracts are a script stored on a blockchain that enables user to define some custom set of rules. So the power of decentralization comes into picture where you can write some code and you can describe who can use it in which way, so that multi signatures means people can sign the process on the blockchain and take a decision virtually without having a physical presence. So this is the power of blockchain. Smart contracts can be written by developers. Smart contracts can be written by developers, which are present on chain, and people can directly interact with those smart contracts using their XTZ. So how you can write smart contracts on Tezos? So this is a very good tool available called as SmartPy. I will share the link with you all in the chat here, and also with Shivam so that he can share it with you on Discord channel. So SmartPy is a Python like language which is not a language, it's just a library which converts your Python like code to a Michelson code. So now Michelson is a very low level language. One cannot write the code directly in Michelson. So you write the code in SmartPy, that gets compiled to a Michelson, and then it gets deployed to the Tezos blockchain. How to write smart contracts in Tezos? So yeah, you can use SmartPy. SmartPy is an intuitive, effective, and smart contract language. So let me show you their website. This is the website. You can see here, you write code in SmartPy, which gets converted to Michelson. And there are various examples available here, which you can use. There are various articles which you can read to understand how they are written. Sorry. So yeah, this is SmartPy, the platform which we can use to uh, write contracts on blockchain. So now, how you can interact with blockchain is the major tool you should know. So for that, from Tasher, there's a really cool tool called as Tasher CLI. You can install this tool on your laptop and interact with blockchain. So I will go through some of the basic commands on Taster. Yeah. So first, once you install Taster, so you can see like Taster hyphen version, which version installed. So 0.3 is the latest version. Also go for help. Like there are the commands available. You can read about them. Firstly, we'll start by setting the RPC. So what is an RPC? RPC is the point where you fetch the data from about blockchain, and then you can use that data like the counter and all things to send a request to the blockchain about any transaction you want to perform. So the command is set RPC. So you can select a local one as well. Like you can select local one if you have local nodes installed. But I am going to use the Delphi one. This one tester.tech. Once that is done, you should verify that it's been saved. So uh, the RPC node is saved. So you can also list the accounts which you have on as a save. So yeah, these are the ones available by default from the local node, and this is the one which I have created. So also you can use Astra to get the balance of your account. Also, you can transfer one from one account to another from Master. This shows transfers complete, but it takes some time to get it reflected on the blockchain. So there are many sort of commands available. Like you can create a wallet, you can add a testnet account, you can activate a testnet account, or you can also remove the accounts, or you can call smart contracts. So these all types of commands are available, and you can visit them here, and you can read about them and how to use them on this documentation. I will share the link of this documentation uh, with all of you guys. So yeah, let's see if uh, yeah. So it's been reduced by 10. So next thing we should learn about how you can create a, a testnet account on. So you can go on wallet here, faucet accounts, go to faucet importer, get a testnet, listen, paste it here. And computer private keys and store this JSON somewhere for future reference. So first you need to activate your account, and once it's activated, you need to check if it's activated from here. So instead of Carthagena, you need to provide Delphi. Not activated yet. You need to wait for a few seconds to. You can see it's activated with a balance of 9,078 XGs, but it's not yet revealed. So let's go and reveal this. So here, only after revealing the account, you will be able to use it. Yeah, it's revealed here. Also, you can download this JSON. Save it, and from tester CLI, add. Been added. So now you need to activate the account. The automated process, you don't need to check for the activation and then wait for the activation and then later reveal. It will do all for you. So while this happens, let's see the IDE of SmartPy. So there are various templates available here which you can use to understand how you can write smart contracts. Also, they have very good reference rates, which are more of a syntactical explanations. Yeah. So here I have already a increment decrement contract, and there are two entry points. So what is the entry point? The entry point is the place from where the blockchain starts reading the smart contract. So whatever job you want to perform, you have a specific entry point for that, and you invoke that contract with some sort of libraries, or you can also do that with tester and interact with your smart contract. So you can run this first. By the time this happens, let's see what has happened. Yeah, so it's been added. Let's check the balance. That's 37,585 XTZ. So from here, you can deploy your contract. You can see that uh, Mickelson is here. So this is the code JSON. This is storage. On deploy, and you will be prompted for the node and network. So I'm going to deploy on Delphinet. I have some test keys. I'll be using one of mine. Just a minute. Let's see if this key works. Yeah, it's the old key. Yeah, so the contract has been originated. You can use the Explorer to interact with it. You can choose which entry point you want to interact with and pass the value here, and it will be incremented or decremented respectively. Yeah. So now we have seen the tools. We have seen SmartPy, we have seen Tassis CLI, and you know how to interact with these tools. So let's understand how you can learn more about Tezos. This is the basic structure, as I told you, that is a from Python, it's generated directly to the Mickelson. Now it's been changed to IDE recently instead of dev. A very nice website if you want to learn about Tezos. And these are the tools which you can use. So a GUI version of this tester is also available. You can use the GUI version. And Bundle React is a React boilerplate which you can use to develop dApps. So it has some tools inbuilt from which you can directly deploy smart contracts from your CLI, writing code on your machine as well, but it runs on Ubuntu and Mac. It doesn't work on Windows. Yeah. So there are some libraries available like PyTezos, Taquito, and Conceal.js. So Conceal.js and Taquito are the ones on JavaScript. PyTezos is on Python. So there are various libraries available, and you can also explore about some other tools from here. So for writing smart contracts using, you have SmartPy. You can also go and do in Lego, and there are various tools available. These are the libraries which you can interact. So for everything, like if you want to build an iOS, you have Tezos Kit. For Android developers, they have Kotlin Tezos. For Python, they have PyTezos. So it has another library. Yeah, so there are various tools available for interacting with blockchain. So I think that's it about Tezos.
Thank you so much, sir. That was really
And
enlightening.
I will share some links over here so that it's easy
Okay, sir.
for the
That was really
participants.
enlightening. And
I
now
have
to
an
keep you
announcement to make. Like the best dApp built on Tezos will
yes,
get a bounty of
yes.
20,000 rupees from Tezos India Foundation. So I repeat, best dApp built on Tezos will get a bounty from Tezos India Foundation. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Hack in the North. I hope this session was useful to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was really enlightening. And now, to keep you all motivated, we have some accomplished keynote speakers here with us to proceed with this ceremony. Let's welcome Mr. Abhinav Khare to give us his valuable insights with my co-host Mrinal.
Hello everyone, I am Ranal Bhave, core team member at Hack in the North. I would like to welcome Mr. Abhinav Khare, one of our keynote speakers for the event. Hello and welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us today. Sir, your mic is off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to start by giving a short introduction about him. Mr. Abhinav is currently pursuing his master's in computational data science from Carnegie Mellon University, USA. He is about to join Apple as a full time software engineer. Recognized for his development skills and research work, Mr. Abhinav has successfully participated in GSOC 17 as a student developer and in GSOC 19 as a mentor. He has done his research internship from NTU, Singapore. He has also done internships at Braze Incorporated, New York, and SmartMe.io, Italy. Today, Mr. Abhinav is going to talk on the topic When Developers Research, What to Expect. Mr. Abhinav, please take over and share your valuable insights with us.
Sure. Thank you for the intro. Can you guys see the screen now?
Yes, sir. You can see your screen.
Okay, just give me a second. Hi, everyone. So I'm Abhinav, and I was an undergrad at IIIT and a former lead organizer of Hackathon North in 2017. So thank you, Team Hint, for inviting me. It's been a tough year, and this is a great initiative to keep the culture alive. So when developers research what to expect, so this is not really a technical talk or a mini workshop of any sorts. Rather, it's some coherent random ramblings about the current state of AI research and open source and jobs in general in this domain from a student software developer's perspective. And I guess you might find these insights useful.
Okay.
So it's a bit of my background, and I guess like the Hint team already covered it. So yeah, so I was like a GSOC developer, that was full stack. Then I was a research intern at SmartMe, and then a research assistant at NTU Singapore, and I was also a GSOC mentor like in 2019, 2018 even. Before like coming to CMU for computational data science. So like the key takeaway is that like I've oscillated between like full stack developers and research roles, and then like more system side stuff like data infra. So yeah, so I got some really great perspective, especially after meeting some people at CMU like who were really the leaders in their fields, and I would love to share that with you in this talk. So let's begin with this notion that as a developer, you probably like implementing stuff and you like seeing things in action really fast and building products for others to use. In contrast to, say, solving math equations on a whiteboard, trying to increase the accuracy of something by a few percentage points, which, to be honest, is quite boring. Even I agree with that. And just because of these notions, like a very clear divide has existed between academia and industry. And especially with the way our education system is designed, it shapes us to look like things in black and white. Like either I will be a researcher or I will be a software developer. But we are about to enter into 2021, and thank God that 2020 is over. The coolest stuff, at least from a developer's perspective, is happening at the intersection of these. And just because the rise in processing capabilities and maturity of AI as a science, it has raised equally exciting challenges in various other fields. So in this talk, you'll see that what's going on right now and get an overview of the AI space in general and where the developers fit in. And we'll also see like where we are exactly and how we got there. So like there's a lot of ML hype, and yeah, it should be like most of the leading like Facebook uses it for timeline, Google uses it as its primary source of revenue. So let's look at a very typical ML pipeline. You generally have some input features or labels and some sort of ML model on which you train on which you train these features. And you might do a few ablation studies to like really get the best feature set possible. You retrain that, and then comes the hyperparameter tuning and inference on final models. And the problem began when too much focus went into training, because everyone was like, okay, yeah, prediction is fine. We can tune the hyperparameters whenever we want. All of the research, it sort of focused, like it got into this sort of rat race to beat each other's model. And we had an explosive growth in accuracy and the performance of models from a perspective of like how well they can do the task that is given to them. Only the problem was that let's say after 2012, 2013, the models, they, like the state of the art, they began to get really, really huge. And we had like every 3 4 months the number of parameters in them doubled and reached like absurd numbers. So like there are models with millions of parameters, which, and like the computation has to be done, like the calculations go through each of those parameters to generate a single prediction. And yeah, so this is the current state of the art. So like inception before, we have slightly improved on the operations, but they still, like, they are really high. And the problem with this is that, let's say, okay, fine, that I have a really huge model and I want to do something about it. So I try to scale my system and increase the RAM, increase the cores, increase the GPU power. But there is a theoretical limit that you can't continue to scale vertically. You can't continue to improve a single machine. Also, at this time, as it so happens, Moore's law is finally ending. We are no longer guaranteed the year-to-year growth in computing power, and we have some stagnation, at least for the foreseeable decade. And that is a big challenge because the data is actually like data quadruples every year at all the major companies. So the only viable solution was to scale horizontally, like distribute the work. You do it through distributed systems, and so now you're using AI with distributed systems. But deploying and managing distributed systems is pretty complex. So cloud comes in, and distributed systems in turn are hosted on cloud. And when you have all three of these, there we go. Like these are the three tenets around which most of the current research and development is revolving around at all the major companies. And now we'll walk through some of the challenges which came about because of, let's say, just a culmination of all of these complex systems, and what developers and like where the developers fit in, and how their insights, if they have some research experience, help like build successful products. So what's hot right now? As we discussed, like the problem was that a lot of state-of-the-art research happened, and we have this huge lag. Like no one has implemented half of what has been done in the past 4 or 5 years, mostly because it's really hard to productionize. It's infeasible. Like if a model is taking 30 days to train for a company of the size of Google, just imagine how much it would take for like a startup. So scalability was the first key challenge, and companies like Google using its ML engine APIs, an entirely new startup called Databricks with its ML flow, and the AWS ML pipelines, Azure Cognitive Services, they were created by developers for developers to do AI at scale. And these are just a few of the big names. There are countless other smaller startups trying to somehow solve this problem of scalable machine learning. Mostly because like it's very easy to write some code in PyTorch and say that this is my model and this is my idea, but it's an entirely different thing to do inference on it and actually productionize it. The next challenge that took shape was management. So imagine that like you are working on a full stack project and you have Git for version control and source code control, and the project just depends on the code. Whereas if you look at a model, it depends on the data that was fed to train it, the environment, as in what were the hyperparameters, the framework, and finally the code which was used to code up the model. So we had a guest lecture from someone who worked at Twitter, and this is from like 3 or 4 years ago, and they mentioned that even at large-scale companies, like this process of transferring knowledge about models, it was very haphazard. Like people would note in some random file that what data set they use, and then someone will change the data, and they won't be able to replicate the model performance. And that really creates some mess if you can't joke around in a production environment. Like if something got predicted, you have to know why, because it has various implications, especially like when it comes to deleting stuff like hate speech. So this same guest lecturer has a PhD from MIT, and after she was done with the PhD, she went ahead and found a startup called Verta, and which was basically a source control for models. And this is a prime example of what this talk is about, like the overlap between the academia and the industry, as in that if you're working in a particular field, you need to have a certain threshold of a perspective that you need to have in order to fix some problem which is painfully real for others as well, and then converting into a product as a software developer. The other challenge was the reproducibility of results. So, in the last decade, a lot of results were published which claimed that they were state of the art. Often, intensive training regimes were in place which generated those results. And there really was no way for the reviewers to see that are they really reproducible? Do they work? Like they were accepted on a good faith basis that if the authors had credibility and the theoretical proofs were sound. But as developers started actually implementing them, they realized that they could not generate half of the results, either due to, let's say, due to ambiguity, or because the author simply made some wrong assumption while writing the paper, and there was no way to catch it. So this is where open source comes to the rescue. This is this new idea in this domain that if a paper is open source and available to the entire community, why shouldn't the code used to implement the paper be? And so especially the big conferences like NeurIPS and ICRR, they are now imposing and like they highly give a preference to papers which actually supply the code or the data and the data to reproduce their results. And this actually is a great boon for the community. If you are a student developer, you might not have access to cutting edge research facilities, but you will have access to the cutting edge papers. And if you have the code and the data as well, no one is really preventing you from leveraging that to create your next hackathon project or even launch a startup based on that. One final challenge that we will touch upon is federated learning. So this is an entirely new idea. So like, as you might have noticed, like Facebook and Google, they all are being hit with anti-privacy lawsuits that under the violations that they leaked user data, they manipulated users' data to gain without their permission. In general, users are having a hard time trusting them. Now, and especially if you take into account like the products like Siri and Google Voice Assistant, they literally rely on user data to perform, to improve their models. Like each time you say something to the assistant, it has an entire feedback loop, and ultimately it helps better the model. But so since this privacy issue came up, people did not want to send any data to the cloud providers or to the service provider. But we still need to train the models. So federated learning is a very the opposite approach, I would say. Like instead of sending over data to the cloud where it gets trained, where it trains the model, and then model is sent to the device, you instead have local copies of the model on your own device, and you train it using the local data, and only send the model's local updates to the cloud server, which consolidates them, and and then sends the updated global model. So this is like a developer's dream. This is like really cutting edge. And when you think of the heterogeneity that exists, different devices, different network performances, different hardware performances, different user preferences, the variation within the data, the millions of parameters to control. This is like an ideal problem which developers can solve. Like if someone is interested in distributed systems, this is the problem of this decade. So there's sort of like a new world order that PhD students are joining and creating startups. Academia is suffering from professors being poached and entire labs being bought by corporations, or they themselves launching startups. So when I was in Italy for my University of Messina internship, really I was working for the startup SmartAmi.io, which those professors had co-founded. And it's becoming a new norm, and which is great because that is leading to true collaboration instead of the separate that partition that used to exist before. So a lot of people always ask that, how do I become a machine learning engineer, or how do I get to implement this cool research? And when you look at the big names like Google, you will see titles like Google uses software engineer in machine learning. Apple uses directly machine learning engineer. Amazon and Microsoft call it applied scientist. And all of these have a position for data scientist, which is actually different from all of these engineering positions, because data scientist actually does a lot of sciencey, boring mathematical calculations, and some sort of business decision side of stuff. So if you are a developer, you and interested in this field, you will probably end up with one of the engineering positions if you actually like to productionize the systems. And if you have a very research oriented experience, you would rather go with data science. And like there are a lot many more titles similar to these, but ultimately it always boils down to, are you productionizing the machine learning environment, or are you re-implementing some paper which is like the best one? And usually very few people get to do that, either very selected teams in the big companies or like some startup. So then the question begins, like towards the end, how do I enter this space? So like you have three very simple things that you can do, even if you don't want to become a full-time researcher. You can read research which is relevant to you. And because when you do that, you get perspective of what's missing or what's the problem in a given field. And you get a holistic perspective, because when you read research, you are forced to sort of read what already exists before you can do anything about it. So it has to be novel. And reading it gives you a great idea of what is already out there. Then you can implement existing research. Like it's easier than ever, like right now, with papers like coming out with code. And of course and with the rise of open source has been tremendous in the last few years. If you look at Apple, they released their Turing library, I think, and LinkedIn released their Kafka system. All of this, like the source codes, the companies have a nice symbiotic relationship with the community. They release their major frameworks that they use internally to the community in the hopes that even more people will use and see the development side of it and maybe make improvements. It's good for you because you get to explore like state-of-the-art software systems which are developed by some of the best developers in the world. Open source in general, like no, I won't even call it open source. Like just having a good GitHub account will go a long way. So yeah, like this meme like sort of gives you the idea that I'm talking about. That there are a lot of people and they all claim to have done projects. If you have GitHub, if you have it somewhere, if you have made contributions to a significant open source repository, that really sets you apart from the crowd. So to summarize, the point of this talk was that why, as a student, why you might want to explore, like, or at least give research a little try. It gives you a great perspective into your field, as we already discussed. It's a great booster for your overall professional growth. It really sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. Not everyone is willing to take the effort to like read. And the best part, that you are literally working on the bleeding edge if you are implementing some new research which like just came out in like, let's say, last year, and no one has done it yet, and you are the first one who's implementing it. You might, and if you look at papers, like they're really incredibly interesting, especially the papers in the field of computer vision, or which are like very easy to replicate, and you can actually make hackathon projects out of them. To further summarize and conclude, I would say that when developers research, they can expect to have a lot of fun. Sorry, this slide was not supposed to be here. Thank you. And I'm very happy to take any questions that you might have. And feel free to reach out to me on either my email or LinkedIn if you have any questions or follow-ups.
Okay, thank you so much for the talk. It was very informative and inspiring. We hope that it cleared many doubts and gave clarity and direction to everyone watching. So we have a small Q&A session now. So the first question would be that as you have participated in GSOC twice, first as a developer and then as a mentor, you have a really good experience with open source contribution. So please tell us about your GSOC journey and what would be your advice to GSOC aspirants?
Right. So I would say that do it for the right reasons. Like there's a tremendous amount of competition just because the title exists, that everyone wants that on their resume.
Right.
And you sort of make that problem worse if you are trying to compete just for the sake of getting it. If you're contributing to a project that you're genuinely interested in and you love developing and you write a thoughtful process, you are already ahead of the rest of the people. So when I was a student, I was also like really starry-eyed, and all I wanted like just to get in somehow. And it took a lot of effort, and ultimately I realized that what really set like, let's say if some more people applied to it, what really set me apart was that I was really consistent. So consistency is key. Like the open source organization, like they invest like those mentors are already really overstressed, and they invest a considerable amount of work when they hire a GSOC student, because they really have to mentor them and guide them every step of the way. For most people, it's their first professional experience, and I think it's a great substitute for like the traditional internships if you fail to get one, because it's equally as good. You write high quality code which goes out to the world, and you get to show it off. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we have this most awaited question. So, how did you prepare and apply for this research internship at NTU Singapore? And what do you think is the advantage of doing a research internship over an industrial internship?
Right. So as for applying there, so I think like one of the primary reasons I got selected. So the application was sort of open. Like the professor I was there, like he was openly asking for applications for people to apply there. If you Google enough, a lot of professors have a dedicated page to which lists that if they are looking for internships, and those are the ones which most often reply to the cold emails. Like a lot of people send cold emails, and that's true. Like that's what you have to do when you're a student. It's very hard to prove that you are valuable, because they are probably like in their 50s and they are a senior professor, and you are saying that I will make meaningful contributions to your research. So you have to really sell them. And for me, like I was able to leverage the fact that I had the GSOC thing, so that which sort of was certified that okay, I can do development experience. So if you're trying to get like, it might be hard to directly jump to a internship and in an entirely different country, and programs like that, like if you have a high enough GPA, actually allow you to give you a platform to do that without like really having to prove what you can do. And if you do not have that kind of GPA, I didn't at that time, and then you have to sell yourself, like why you can make meaningful contributions to your research. And as for the second part of your question, that how has it helped me or why is it better to do it? So again, like the entire thing was about perspective. Industry is fine. Like you are given a task, it might be interesting, it might not be interesting. But when you do research, you are forced to look at everything else, which you probably won't implement either way. But that gives you a really broad overview of the field you are working in. And that really helps you starting conversations and interviews. Like it has already like always helped me. Like when I was interviewing for my internship over here, they were really interested in what I did in Italy, because it seemed just simply interesting, because research often is more interesting than, let's say, developing a web app. And there's nothing wrong with developing a web app, but the thing is that you might want to explore that as well, and then make your decision what you want to do.
Okay. And how has your research internship helped you with getting a software engineer role?
Yeah, so like sort of related to the last question, as in I worked on problems which, like if you are doing a company internship, let's say, so you align yourself with the policies of that company, and you don't really get to talk about it. You probably sign NDAs, and at best you can say that I worked on this using this technology stack. With research, you can actually publish stuff. And I was the first author of a paper in the journal of distributed systems, sorry, the IIT journal. And I guess that was a primary factor in, first of all, getting into a competitive master's program at CMU. And so when you publish something through a research, it's sort of like a validation that what you were doing was meaningfully contributing to the society as a whole, instead of just helping some company accomplish some task. So the whole point is, again, the diversity stuff, that if you have 10 identical applicants, all of them have 10 software engineering internships, but you also have research experience, you will be able to leverage that. It sets you sort of apart from the crowd. And yeah, so always, like whenever interviewers ask me questions that you faced adversity or some challenge you faced, often the times like researchers, like the research internships, they are not well defined like the industrial ones, that you start at week 1 and at week 7, this is your task, then bye-bye, that sort of stuff. Research is like more lax, and you might have to change course midway or something like that. So yeah, that gives you something to talk about in the interviews, and of course, other than the perspective that you already got.
Okay. So last but not the least, we have one question that How did you manage your time doing things simultaneously? That is, preparing for exams like GRE and TOEFL. What are the key points one should keep in mind from the start if they're aiming to pursue a master's or PhD abroad?
Right. So, I mean, at that time, like when I was giving GRE and TOEFL, I don't think I particularly did a good job of managing my time. Like my GPA really went down the drain. But I did learn some important lessons that it's about like everything is hard if you do it all at once. GRE in itself is like you have to learn some vocabulary stuff. TOEFL, you don't actually have to study much if you are studying for GRE already. But if you push it, so let's say I have to give my GRE in September, and then I start preparing in August 15th, and I have my midterms. Then it's a hard thing for anyone to do. I could have done like when I was like traveling or like doing basically nothing during the summer. I could have started then. So the importance of starting early is the key takeaway that I took from my experience because it was incredibly hard to manage the semester deadlines, the GRE, and like often when you're in the last semester, and like if you're applying for a master's, you actually need the pointers. So you really do not want it to go down. But yeah, so that's my key takeaway. That even though I did not do a good job of managing my time, but you can do it for yourself if you start early enough. Like if you have decided that you are going to apply for masters, GRE is valid for an entire year once you give it. So you don't have to give it on the application deadline. Like CMU's deadline for writing the SOP was 10 December, and I started writing it like on 1st. If you know that you are going to do it, it's probably better to start early so you are not in a rush and give your best.
Okay, that pretty much sums up the discussion for today. We appreciate the time you took out for being with us and sharing your inspiring journey. I'm very certain that the audience was intrigued by such an amazing and enlightening session. Once again, thank you for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This was Mr. Abhinav Khare. Thank you, Mr. Abhinav, for this enlightening talk. Once again, I would like to remind you that the deadline to join the Discord channel is 10 p.m., so join in and show some excitement. Now, to multiply that excitement, we have with us our last keynote speaker for the day, Ms. Ritika Motwani, along with our co-host, Pranav Singhal. We welcome you, ma'am.
Ms. Ritika Motwani and Pranav Singhal will be joining us shortly.
Presently working as a software developer at Clint, Singapore. She has been a student developer and a student mentor with Google Summer of Code in 2018 and 2019 respectively. She has done a research internship at NTU Singapore. Also, she has been a student scholar at Grace Hopper Celebration India. Apart from this, she has been a tech intern at Reliance and front-end developer at FOSS Asia. We are honored to have the opportunity to have her as our second keynote speaker in Hacka-demic. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us.
Thank you. That was a nice introduction.
The top topic for Ms. Ritika for today is making impact as a student developer. Ms. Ritika, you can start with your insightful session.
Cool. Let me share my screen first. If the screen is not visible at any point, please interrupt me.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Yeah. So I have this topic called making impact as a student developer. So a little bit about myself. So I'm Ritika and I'm currently working as a software engineer. And I've already been introduced. I'll just skip this slide. Yeah. So I'm going to start with this topic with a confusion that everyone who lands up in a college, especially learning CS or in a field like IT, and is like lost in a jungle with so many things, so many languages to study. So some of the key languages which every senior comes and tells is data structures, the normal courses you have in college, competitive coding, web development, app development, and machine learning, AI, and the list never ends. So, like, if you lost here, how, like, what should be your first steps? How should you proceed? So, according to me, the first thing that you should go for is data structures and algorithm, because it is like the key thing that every stack, every field uses. Say you're learning web development, then you're actually working with the data. How is it getting stored? What is the time complexity of the functions that you have in your code? So everything, like the basic thing for every field is data structures and algorithm. So I would suggest that this is one thing that you should have a good grasp on, and you should proceed with this. Then on with it, because it's a topic that is in your curriculum that you study on your own as well. So it would take around a year to like have a proper grip on it. After that is the real confusion, that which direction to actually proceed to. So in like the especially the Indian hiring trend, I would say, is very much hardwired to lead code. That is one very important thing that everyone should know. Like, it's not like you should know every question that is present on Geeks or Geeks Elite Code, but yeah, about algorithms, about data structures, or about every ad hoc problem. So it would take some time, but yes, this is very important. If your end goal is to have a good job, so this would be a key factor at most of the companies. I won't say that it is everywhere, but yes, for most of the companies, this is one particular thing that every interviewer asks you. So, according to me, you should like have a proper time management. Like, what if you're interested on working in on real life projects or solving real life challenges as a student? As a student, you feel like gaining experience of what's happening in the industry. So this would require an extra time management on your part to go through your interests, to go for whatever field you like was mentioned in the initial slide. You can take up web development, you can take app, you can take up machine learning research or something. And then you'll have to dedicate your time slots to it. So like in my second or third, like the beginning of the third year, I started with web development. And some of the key factors that would help you to like solve those problems and like move forward in that direction are, I'm going to discuss them now. So first one would be hackathons. So like hackathons is like nowadays they're happening in every college, and they are like they really prepare you with problems and facing those problems and challenging yourself to come up with a great solution. So these are some of the suggestions that I've listed that you should take part in them. Try to solve small problems. Like you don't have to create an entire app in one day. That's not even required by anyone. But try to tackle small problems that people actually face in their day-to-day life. Be like, it would be good if you take a data-driven approach towards it. Ask your peers, the people present in the hackathon, the mentors present, like what is something that would be helpful to you if it's automated. So you can create a very small system to automate that. And yeah, that would bring your project to an upward scale. For example, you can build small command line tools which would actually be used in the industry and would have proper stakeholders. So that would actually be a good hackathon project. And such challenges would motivate you and bring you closer to the stack used and help you gain perspective. You would feel very good about yourself after that. Next thing can be open source. So open source is not only about the various summer of codes we've started having in the last few years. So yes, that is very much a driving force towards contributing. So it's not wrong to call it a driving force, but it would be wrong if you come into open source and you're just competing with people. It's not for competition. It's to gain real life experience, explore projects, find good people who are also working in a stack you like. So that would be called networking. And you would meet people and like they would be your connections for your life, and they can help you in the long run anytime you need. And the next good thing about contributing to the open source repos would be the code reviews you get from mentors. So many people actually find their lifelong mentors who actually support them in such projects or such organizations. And so if someone is helping you with the code reviews, don't take their comments negatively. Take it as a constructive criticism and work towards it. And collaborate with others, learn teamwork, which is very much important in the industry. And some of the learnings which you'll have into open source, like committing to a repo, working on issues, sending in PRs, writing clean and very readable code will definitely help you in the long run, because every company at the end requires employees who know such things. Like this is the basic criteria for a lot of companies. If I like, not very much sure about the MNCs because they, for them it's just read code. But I would say for startups, if you have like a goal to work with a startup in a small company and make your impact and have ownership of the project, then I would say that working on open source would definitely help. Then work, like do some internships, have some industrial exposure. It can be anywhere, but it would definitely help you find mentors, gain experience, and improve your skills. So the next part I was I had thought of telling was, how is life at a startup? What, because it's not like really easy to work at a startup. It has its own hardships, but at the end you learn the culture of working in a small team yet producing a heavy outcome that like really impresses everyone and really builds a trust between you, your stakeholders, and your internal team. And yeah, like the feedback processes, having ownership of the part you're doing, and like it builds in actual confidence in you. And yeah, you get more ambitious after that. Okay, so like this was all for my slides. And for everyone participating in the hackathon, like I had really a lot of fun participating in Hint 2 years back, and it was like a great experience for me. So I hope everyone has that too. And I would like to thank the team for inviting me for a short talk. Yeah. So should we go on to the questions?
Okay. Thank you so much for the talk, Ms. Ritika, and sharing your valuable experience with all of us. I'm very certain that all the hackers participating in Hacka-demic were inspired by this wonderful session. Now,
Okay,
let us
thank you.
start our Q&A round.
Sure.
Okay. So, my first and very obvious question that I want to start up with is, how did you start with your tech journey in the first year? Which tech stack did you start with, and how did you progress it further?
Um, so I would say that like everyone who enters the college with a dream of like coding and like being the best engineer possible, if, like all of them actually start with the most basic language, that is C. So that's how I started. And yeah, for the first year I like actually used to concentrate on C and like used to learn the course we had called data structures and algorithms. So I used to focus on that and used to do some competitive programming because that was the culture of the college, and every senior and every one you used to meet, they actually tell you, yeah, you should do this and you'll get the best job possible. So that's how I started with uh, coach, chef, and sports. So yeah, for the first year I used to do that, but after like an year I got really bored with it, and that's how I came towards learning HTML, CSS, and building my own website, and then yeah, with different frameworks for JavaScript and everything. So that's how my journey started.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your journey with us. Okay, now I want to ask you that here in India, there is a mindset in every young developer that to get a good internship or to get a good job at a big company, one has to be a very good competitive programmer. Means that one has to have a great knowledge of data structures and algorithms. So, how would you guide a student developer in general to prepare for internships in India? And specifically, I would like to have an answer for abroad internships.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that data structure and algorithm in itself is like really important, as I said in my slide, because it's not like it won't just help you towards like competitive programming if you're like solving the string questions or the array questions. So you need data structures. So that's not the only purpose that this course solves. When you're working as a web developer and you're working on back end, front end, and you have huge database with a lot of data. So how should you store it? What's the best way? How to create indexes? After you create indexes for your table, how are they actually stored? So they're actually stored as binary trees. So you should know the concept of trees. And even if you work as an app developer, I'm sure even they work with data and like what's the best way to have a function, what would be the time complexity, because you're actually working serving millions of users at a time. So you have to know that your database is scaled properly, your functions are faster, and everything is good. So data structures and algorithms is an important course. But I would say that after that, like there's a hardwired concept of like doing lead code, solving 10 questions every day, doing geeks for geeks and solving 10 questions every day. And people think that that's the only way how you can get a job. But like I would disagree on this point. And even if you're a good student developer and you know your basics, which are very important, like I've met a lot of developers these days who directly jump into the JavaScript frameworks. They would know React, but they won't know the basics of JavaScript. So that's wrong. You should know your basics. So after that, I don't think like there should be a problem for you to get a good job anywhere.
Okay, that was very informative. Thank you, Ms. Ritika.
Thank
So,
you.
the next question is that, to my knowledge, you have been to a lot of hackathons. So, it would be great to hear your experience about them. That how you beat sleep, hunger, bugs, and of course, teams in a hackathon.
Oh, wait, I had a slide for this. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Yes. skipped it in the middle, but it was like in general for the hackathons, it was a good meme. Yeah. So it's like I think that every programmer who's very passionate about hackathons can actually be up all night. Like it's not just about hackathons when you're coding and you can't like you get stuck. I don't think you can sleep that easily. So I would suggest to take on a great challenge. Like it doesn't have to be like you're building an entire app which is predicting weather and then telling you if you should go out or not because it's going to rain or something. That's not like, yeah, they are good starting projects, but they're not solving any problem for like anyone in general because we already have a lot of weather apps on our devices. So that's been already taken care of. So find something new, find something small, and like ask around if they're like actually facing a problem, and then solve it for your peers. And after you get their validation, you've actually like solved a real challenge. So that would be good. And while you're doing this, I don't think you'll be able to sleep, or to beat sleep, I think you can like have good food, drink coffee or something. And yeah, that would be good.
Okay, ma'am. I'm very certain that all the hackers in Hacka-demic right now would follow this. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So, ma'am, it was really a very wonderful experience interacting with you today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for joining with us in Hacka-demic.
Ma'am, I
Yeah.
have one more question from my side.
Sure, sure. Sure.
Ma'am, when we get out of college and we have both startups and we are both MNCs and we are both Indian startups, so which kind of companies do you think is the right step to start with, or the stronger step, in fact, for a resume?
For like it depends. What do you have to do with your resume? So like if you just have to like go towards a better company, a better salary, so I don't think you can join any of the three. Join something that actually interests you and you believe in their product. Like for me, when I joined, I really had the interest in in the product that I was building. So I kept continuing, and I actually like my work a lot. So as long as you have a faith on what you're building and you think that yeah, it's helping a lot of users, you'll keep moving forward. And for MNCs, like joining MNCs is not bad either. You get a high pay and everything. So everything is really good, but I would suggest do something that really interests you. Just don't follow the herd. Like, oh, so many people are going to Google, oh, so many people are going to this MNC, this is the best place for me to work. And then you get all the peer pressure that yeah, if you don't go to this place, you're gonna fail in life. So I, for me, I never sat in the college placements, and everyone around me was like actually behaving that I am gonna fail in life now. I have no other choice, and I'm gonna end up jobless. But if you have a strong will to do something, you should like move forward with it.
Ma'am, what about during the college days? College days when we apply for internships, it can be either in big companies or either in startups. So, which kind of company will give us the right exposure during college?
Hmm. That's a great question. So again, for internships, I would suggest you like if your plan is that I have to work at an MNC and get a PPO, and yeah, that's for my life. Like I'll work at this MNC and then just keep switching between a few MNCs that I have options for. Then yeah, working in an MNC would be good. But if you like think that you might go for higher studies after like not directly after college, but after 2 3 years, then I would suggest you to have some research work in your profile because that would definitely help you when you apply even later. And other than that, if you think that, yeah, I don't want to directly go and work at an industry, but I want to work on a big project and handle it independently. I want that ownership and I have that capability to have that ownership. Then I would suggest to work at startups or like do some open source projects because they actually like you're the only few you'll find only 3 4 people more working on the entire project, so one part of it is completely your own, and if it breaks it's your responsibility, if it succeeds it's your responsibility. So that ownership is like really motivating for you. Yeah.
So, you're concluding that depending upon our interest for the future
Yes.
education, we would
Yes.
start up or we would take an
Yes.
MNC.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
No problem.
Okay, that was such an informative talk session. We hope you all enjoyed it all, and we wish you all best of luck. Hope to see amazing hacks from all of you. Coding period will start from 10 p.m. Check out the announcement channel in the Discord, and be sure to join Discord before 10 p.m.
We're also having an Ask Me Anything session with Mr. Abhinav and Ms. Ritika from 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Join in with us on Discord. So thank you and have a wonderful hack ahead. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.